yes, here we are. And I guess we should have come back 2 weeks ago, but I was like, yeah, nothing happened yet. But here we are. Lots of hockey has been happening. A lot of hockey is happening right now because there's two teams just won't die. And the NHL Network's rubbing it in by having Gabby on the air right now. That's great. We're completely in the swing of full-on playoff hockey. I'm Dan, of course.
Censored Gabby is kind of pointless.
I don't know why he's there. I guess he's done right now.
Yeah. Well, that was the theory. He promised his wife he was done after Minnesota, but I'm sure he's just waiting for his next job.
That's Kelly Levy. Follow her at Sked Central. Paul Baker's here. Puckman, all right. Dave Cotney, our guest at ProFan. So, how do we feel about hockey thus far? You know, in this pandemic world that we live in, and we talked about our reservation. I'll ask our guest first, Dave. You know, we all had our reservations. Here we go. I know it's not you're the big thing for you, but it's gone off without a hitch so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah, not too bad. They don't have any, Cardinals going off to casinos or starting pitchers going out and partying in Chicago. So,
Oops.
So the negative tests haven't been there. I don't know. It's been okay. I know, Dan, you were saying you don't really watch with the sound on a lot of the times, but to me it's just not the same. Like the sound is really lacking, and the EA Sports thing or whatever they're doing with the sound it's okay, but I know we talked last week on Stadium Journey about that bad hit that Jake Muzzin took in the Leafs game, and I didn't actually see the hit. I ended up turning it on as he was laying down on the ice, and they were doing whatever and bringing out the stretcher, and it was so creepy quiet. Like there wasn't even that low buzz where people are just talking in the stands quietly. Like it was dead silent, and then the poor commentators, they don't really know what to say, and
what to say. He's faking.
Yeah, it was dead. It was the deadest dead air ever.
The very little that I've heard, because I've been watching I'm watching all the games, but we were eating dinner right before the show and watching the Leafs. No, sorry, that was not on purpose. I am so sorry. The Lightning and the Blue Jackets. God, I'm going to get so much hell for that. About 3 people. Jesus Christ. It was blue. I'm sorry. It's really the first game that I've paid attention to the sound. And I guess my only complaint is I would rather hear the cussing and the yelling at each other than the that's what I'd rather hear that than any announcers. I'll get on my Mike Milbury thing in a second, which will I'm sure I'll get letters for that too. But luckily my Facebook is turned off for 3 days, so I can't get it there. Hey, Paul, what do you think so far?
Well, I've kind of been taking the early games kind of like the Boston Bruins did. Yeah, they actually came out and said, hey, it's preseason.
Yeah.
But you know what? Watching this Tampa-Columbus game, I'm back in, baby.
I am back on board. Kelly, you've watched them all with me. How about you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting experiment. Yeah, we watched most of it on mute because we cannot stand the commentary, and I agree, the fake crowd noise is just distracting because it doesn't. I don't know who's doing it, but you can tell they're either very limited by what they can do, or it's not a hockey fan doing the sound. It's very bizarre to me. The crowd just gets cranked up at odd times and then is very quiet at other times when normally you would hear the crowd really react. So it's just kind of off-putting.
And it seems like it's on a delay sometimes too. It's like,
Yeah.
which button do I push?
Well, I was about to say that too, guys. Is I've watched, well, until this weekend, I've watched all the Sixers games. I was watching the Phillies games, and compared to hockey, those two broadcasts seem to have got it. You have the benefit of having a really small playing court for basketball, where they have the big HD LEDs all surrounding the whole court, and they've been putting fans on Zoom in there, and it's not really distracting. It's just different. It's cool to see, but it sounds like it sounds like a game more than hockey. Hockey, there's like, I think part of the problem is they're playing the sounds for both the home and the visiting team.
Yeah, they seem to forget the home team.
The Flyers one seemed really, really bad. Where they would score, it just was kind of like a smack. Like, wow, that was not at all.
Yeah, it was. Some of the round robin games were really, really terrible. It was like being at a Caps game in the early 2000s when the crowd actually was 75% the visiting team. So they would cheer us out of the building all the time. That's been the weirdest part for me. Do you know if the others? Oh, I thought that was in. Do you know if the other sports have the broadcast teams there? Because
Baseball
I know
does not.
baseball doesn't. Okay. Because hockey's
Basketball,
remote.
I believe. Basketball, they're all there. They're in a bubble, just like hockey.
Right.
They have them in the booth, and from what I'm to understand, and the pictures I've seen, there is plexiglass at each seat at the booth, so you can still communicate verbally the way you would if there was no plexiglass there. But they are separated while they're up in the booth, just in case, I guess.
Right. Because I know for the first round of hockey, at least, it was the broadcast teams were remote, or at least for the round robin they were, which was weird. I was watching one of the games, and there was a distinct delay. So the guy was talking about what had already happened on the video feed, and since we watch on the internet connection, they were well behind the live feed. I'd say that's been my biggest complaint as a audience member.
It's just like going live and putting the radio in your ear. Like you got that.
Yeah.
You got that 7-second delay.
Yeah. So Dan doesn't say anything bad. I'll tell you what my biggest complaint watching the round robin and the first round, Mike Milbury. Listen, I guess that in this world you're supposed to fake respect somebody automatically because of their time somewhere, and I get it. I happen to live on the, you earn the respect. It's not just automatic. No matter what you do, you earn it. That's just me, though. I was raised on too many political comedians and music. That's just me. All due respect to Mike Milbury and his hockey career, not so much his coaching career. Yeah, I know, Paul. Back me up for this, okay? By the way, when I'm done, he makes me want to listen to Pierre Maguire.
Ouch!
Whoa! Everyone, we have a hot take.
Ooh.
I know I'm a no. See, here's the thing. Let me preface this. I know my place on the totem pole of hockey, and air quotes broadcasting is at the very bottom. I get it. I know who I am. I know I'm a nobody. Blah 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 blah. If he knows the game of hockey, and there's somebody there, male or female, that doesn't know it better than him, we're in trouble. I can't. That is it's one of the main reasons, and a couple of other play-by-play guys, that I do watch it on mute, because I have no interest in listening to the NBC broadcast. The NBC broadcasts are bad. I've seen very little of the Canadian broadcast this year, except for what was airing on the NHL Network during the round robin. He pisses me off. He pisses me off, Paul.
Yeah, and you were just saying about his resume. what is so great about his resume
You
besides the fact that it's long? Because I mean, he had a decent career. He was never an all-star. He played a good 14 years. He had a good career. Was always just kind of a middle of the road guy, a team guy. Never put up big stats. Was never an all-star. Then he went into management, and he did a horrible job. He everywhere he's gone, he's left messes for people to clean up. Whether it's the Bruins, the Islanders, Boston College, everywhere he's ever taken a job, he screwed it up. So I don't understand why he is deserving of our respect any more so than someone else.
I've had certain discussions on social media about him in the past, and I've been told based on a resume I'm not allowed to say those things. Well, I'm here to tell you, Mike Milbury sucks eggs. Okay? He sucks eggs. And the thing that pisses me off most about it, and it's not even, if he was from the Flyers and he said this bad, I would even be more angry that they were, like, can you get him off, please? Like, even just go. And what pissed me off more with all of the people they were rotating in and out, and let me preface this for those who want to call me a social justice curmudgeon, all those people, male or female, that they rotated in and out during the round robin when there were 6 games every day or whatever, that sound better, and that's what they went with. It pisses me off. I'm stuck with it. It's bad. It drags the rest of the broadcast down where, like I said, that's why I watched it on mute most of the time. So I wasn't going to use a pandemic to go, well, I missed this so much. Let me leave my – and plus I've gone deaf in one ear. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, isn't there, like, there's a little bit of a subculture in hockey where there's the attitude that, you know, well, you didn't play the game and I know and you don't. And to me, Milbury fits into this group who have come through. Don Cherry would totally fit into that group. Up here, it seems that Don Cherry's place has been taken by Brian Burke. You know, they just give this air of like, you're stupid to the viewer, right? Pierre Maguire is he's similar in a less condescending way.
He's not condescending. That's the thing. That is the thing. Exactly. You nailed it.
He wants to be the smartest guy in the room, but doesn't want to make you feel stupid about it. You know, Mike Milbury wants to make you feel stupid about watching hockey, liking hockey. You know, Brian Burke the same way. Bob McKenzie, who was a TV, you know, insider for TSN, same sort of arrogance that I just don't feel like. To me, you don't get that with baseball commentators, maybe because they have to talk so much and they have to fill like dead time. You feel like you have more of a relationship with a baseball commentator than some of these color guys in hockey who are, you know, just arrogant. I will give Mike Milbury credit for this. I thought he was pretty darn good in that 30 for 30, the big shot one on John Spanos.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, he's good as he's good in interview position.
He relished the chance to get rid of any of his part in that. He was all about, oh, yes, it was all Spanish. We had no idea what was going on. Okay, Mr. Hockey Guy, you're the one who was making the trades, buddy.
You're the one who gave Yashin that contract.
I never thought of that.
Roberto Luongo, who wants to sign that kid goalie? Chara, who wants that huge giraffe of a man? We don't need him.
Let's sign Rick DiPietro.
Exactly.
No, they drafted him first overall.
And signed him for like 30 years.
And traded Luongo to get him.
Yep. Milbury.
That one didn't really work out.
Mike Milbury, ladies and gentlemen. So to add on to what you were saying, Dave, I put it alongside of the same kind of mentality, and I'm not going down this road, so I'm just using it as a comparison, of people when you complain about certain people in charge in the United States, in charge, and they say, well, if you don't love it, leave. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
First of all,
can't.
all
We
right.
can't.
See you later. I can't, but when I can, fine. But it's like, no, I'm pointing this out to make it better. You're allowed to like something and criticize. Go ahead, Kel.
No, I was just helping you. You seemed lost for the word.
Oh,
there.
I am lost. Oh my
You
god, I'm
can
so
like
lost.
something and criticize it.
Yeah, you're allowed to like something and criticize that because you want it to be, or what you think is better, or discuss together how can we make it better. And we should discuss the 6 other people that I could write down, and I'll have next week from the round robin tournament that I can do a better job than Mike Milbury. Put him back at the bench at least. Not the bench, the table. Although Keith Jones was probably like, can you put him, I don't want him here, please.
I don't like him there either.
I know, but I can mute him because it's not during the game.
But here's
I got to do something else. Go ahead, Dave.
Here's what we've got to do. And I would say that as the generations have gone further and further along, we've been really poor at doing this. When you don't like Mike Milbury and he's on NBC, then you turn it off, right? So one of the things, and I've taken flack for this at home. I'm one of the very, very few Canadians who I don't get into the World Junior Hockey Championship tournament. And one of the big reasons was that was Pierre Maguire's real coming out party. He had come out of I think it was Hartford at the time, where he was an executive, and he was out. He had gone. Was he in Pittsburgh before Hartford?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't remember. So yeah, they answered the question.
Just think of a bad team in the early '80s. A really bad team. Pierre Maguire was there.
And he's like a nice enough guy and whatnot, but I couldn't stand him on the World Junior Tournament because every player coming through the Canadian team was a can't miss prospect. It was like every guy on that team was going to be drafted first overall, and it just became too much. And I shut it off. I stopped watching, and that's what we have to do. We have to shut it off. Like I compared to I was in line at a Tim Hortons once. It was a really slow Tim Hortons. There was this woman in front of me, and she's just barking and screaming about how slow the service is, and she's yelling at the people working and this and that and the other thing. I'm like, you got two legs. Like, make your money powerful, right? Like, your money now has no power if you're just gonna stand there and complain about it, right?
Canada was complaining and rude? What?
Oh yeah.
American. Guaranteed American.
That was American lady? I don't know.
By the way, Maguire was in Pittsburgh before Hartford.
Okay. But yeah, just like take your money, take your power, and leave. Take your eyeballs and say, hey, or tweet it out. Hey, NBC, watch like the first 10 minutes, couldn't stand Mike Milbury, turned it off, right? And I know it's funny, we're going to talk about the Leafs, and that's always been like the Leafs, well, don't go or don't watch. Well, that's what you
Where else
do.
am I going to go? No. That was my next point. The thing is if I really want to watch hockey, so I just mute it, and most of the time I keep quiet about it. But I had this game unmuted, and I was just I judge if I'm overreacting about things by if Kelly's reacting. And Kelly was reacting the same way about Mike. So I was like, okay, if you're rolling your eyes, my eye roll is justified in this one. And also to add, and then Paul, take over after me. It looks like you're going to say something. Just to add to what you're saying, Dave, I really want to watch hockey. But also to that first thing you said about this, and Kelly kind of added on to it, this notion that you're not allowed to question the older guard is why, in general, not to pick on anybody, particularly in the world right now, but in general, why we are where we are mentally and physically. How about that? I'll say it like that. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, and my complaint about Milbury is that he's trying maybe too hard to have it's like he's on the internet. He's trying to have the hot take. Like when Muzzin got hurt. Well, he's faking because he needs a rest. He's tired. Guy got carried out on a stretcher. Just now in the Columbus-Tampa game, which is about to go into a fifth overtime, it looks like. But before the third overtime, he says, I think we should start doing what we do in the regular season. We should play 3-on-3 or have a shootout in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe there are some people who agree with him, but it seems like he's stretching too hard to be relevant.
I actually forgot about this comment, but the comment that he made about how it looks like an NWHL game.
Yes. Forgot about that.
While that might be true, why did you feel the need to say that in this environment these days? Why did you feel the need that you had to measure your penis at that moment?
Because hockey has no other voices. It is the most homogeneous group by far in professional sports. There are no dissenting voices, and we've seen the I don't even know what to call it. The guy running the signs at the overtime game is killing it.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy in Edmonton?
Thank you, fans.
No. In they had one during play where it was down at the corner. When the action was down at the Columbus end, and they kind of panned up enough, and the sign just said "still overtime." And now they're in this last, I guess, the last commercial break before it is time for the 7th period stretch.
And what was the one about when the game ends, please exit your couch safely?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys see the one where they said thanks to all the fans, and it was just 4 big, huge fans sitting in the row?
Oh, that's what that was. Fans.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
That's what I was
you.
dying. Tonight's attendance 0. They've been nailing it.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the live presentation than the TV presentation. I've said my piece. I'm sure I'll be labeled a bitching snowflake, and that's fine, but I'm right and you're wrong.
You know what? Sorry, just before you move on, one thing that has confused me, I'm not sure why this has never happened before. Up here, we lived through a strike at the CBC, and during that time, they had the CFL and the CFL broadcast. So what they did is they played like just the stadium sounds. Now, not sure that's going to work in this case with nobody in the arenas, and that's a little bit different. But I'm not sure why in this day of technology we've never had the option of turning off the comment. Like they got that SAP or whatever. Why has nobody offered, go in, hit your SAP, and then it can sound like you're really there. You can hear the music that's there. You can hear the PA announcer that's there. You can hear
we want to hear the PA announcer.
There is a clever trick you can do that I haven't tried, but it can absolutely happen if you have a home theater. If you you turn off your center channel during live sports, it will drown out the commentators almost completely. I don't know if that'll work during the I don't know if they're broadcasting it any differently because there's nobody there and it's through another channel. I haven't tried it, but that's why I hit mute.
Do you all remember when the one of the networks did that in an NFL game? It was a worthless Saturday afternoon game. I think it was Buffalo and the Jets or Buffalo and Miami, 2 crappy teams. I said it. And they didn't have any play-by-play guys. They just did what Dave was just saying.
They did it, and I long for it. It was years ago now. It was probably over 15 years ago. I believe it was a Montreal game. They just mic'd the audience. They did not have commentary, so it was like being at the arena, and it was wonderful. It was so great to just actually experience it like if you were sitting in a seat at the arena.
The Carolina Hurricanes, as the game goes in another overtime, just tweeted, "We don't have any words. We know you don't want to hear them. We understand your anger, your frustration, your sadness, everything you're feeling. We get it. This is the start time we imagined, and certainly not the one we wanted. Thank you for being there the entire way.
Right, because they announced that the Boston Carolina game will start 88 minutes after the conclusion of this game. So right now we're looking at 10 o'clock at the earliest.
Wow.
Why 88?
I don't know.
I
Why not
don't
86
know.
3/4?
What
88.
does
88's the number.
I was
Surface
about
the
to say,
ice.
what does the NHL do that makes any sense? But they've been able to play hockey without anybody getting sick. So what the hell do I know?
Well, Canada has a big role in that.
That's true.
Yeah, probably.
That's true. They did tell the Blue Jays to F off, and now they're playing in Buffalo. They're playing in Buffalo,
Like
correct?
right now, they're
Oh,
playing
they
the first game in Buffalo right now.
And Major League Baseball, in their infinite wisdom, knows that nobody wants to see a game played in a new stadium for the first time ever. So they're showing the Kansas City-Cincinnati game.
Sounds about right. Oh yeah, okay. That's the other thing we didn't mention. The coverage on NBC when they had all these games going, when they were bouncing it to other. Oh my goodness, what a mess! The Capitals Bruins game was not on locally. It was supposed to be on NBC Sports Washington. They were playing the Wizards game because trust me, everyone in DC wants to watch the Wizards. It wasn't on the alternate channel. They had radio broadcasts of it because people were calling in trying to find out what was going on because they couldn't watch it on. It's that part hasn't been good. You'd think, because NBC does the Olympics, you would think they'd have this kind of technical side of it figured out. Like I get you have to improvise. You're going to have to juggle things around, but you should have some options set up and be able to switch out channels and then let people know what channels the game that you actually want to watch is going to be continued on. But they failed miserably several times.
I am. It's a very good point you just made. Even though I am quite thankful that the NHL is back. It is amazing to me that this huge, giant conglomerate known as NBC Universal couldn't advertise, take care of that. That's just me.
I mean, they're covering so many other. Oh wait, no, they're not.
Well, they did have the Premier Lacrosse League going for a little while.
Don't even get me started.
Oh no, get started, please.
Nothing.
Darn it.
No.
All right.
We haven't had a good Kelly rant in a while.
Pretty good one. We had a mini Kelly rant. I was happy. She showed up for this one. So I figure out 4 weeks or more, and Kelly's ready for her show.
Yeah, I need about a month.
Yeah, which is with the NHL, I get you. You know what I mean? With that being said, I guess it's time to talk about why I brought Dave on in the first place, and that is the curious case of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Even I, this Toronto hater that I am, God damn you, Toronto. Even I, with Dave always referencing Joe effing Carter, was blown away and actually sad that they couldn't figure out where we are at this moment with the Maple Leafs. And this is a long story from 1967 on. It is more in depth than I ever realized. We're not going to hit all the points, but I guess I'll just go to Dave to start. Why? Why? What's going on?
Well, there's a book out by a writer, a Toronto writer, and it's a few years old now, but it's called "The Leafs Really Suck." and here's how they could get better. It's on my list. I don't have it. I haven't read it, but
good timing.
But if you look at it you could look at it a couple different ways. So let's take a minute. Let's compare them to, like, let's say the Patriots, the New England Patriots, but let's do it in an opposite way. So what has made the Patriots so successful, right?
I mean, me as a fan.
Jesus
oh,
Christ,
okay.
Paul.
So I send you we'll send Paul a Leafs jersey, and boom,
It'll
it's
all
on.
be over.
They just move them to Boston, and then they'll win. because everybody wins in Boston.
Boston, yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's been a week and a half since we won a championship.
Shut up, Paul. It's not funny anymore. Damn you.
I enjoy
It's
the hell
been
out
at
of it.
least 3 months. There's been no sports.
Been a week and a half. The Boston
Boston
Cannons.
won Major League Lacrosse. A
Okay,
2-week
again.
season.
A sport that people show up for.
Nobody's
voluntarily.
showing up for anything.
Wow. Kelly with this freaking shade this week.
Cardboard people don't count as real people.
Hey, my
Unless
cardboard
Trump's
matters.
counting for the election.
Kelly, I would like to know how you really feel about lacrosse.
Oh, boy.
I quite like watching lacrosse, but I am done with organized lacrosse. It's also my religion argument. So
Okay.
We should bring her on for the next Stadium Journey Lacrosse podcast to find out why. Because
Oh,
now
boy.
we haven't had this conversation. I'm deathly curious why. Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry.
Off topic.
But anyway,
Off topic alert.
the Patriots. So the Patriots, they always talk about this culture of winning, right? And you have stability in their leadership, and then you have like the big centerpiece, or at least you had the big centerpiece star. Well, once the Leafs, got past 67 and into the 70s, all of that stuff happened in reverse, right? So everybody knows the name Conn Smythe. Conn Smythe was, a deserving Hall of Famer as a builder. Built the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was the brainchild behind building Maple Leaf Gardens, which produced a whole lot of revenue for the team. But once Conn Smythe had died and he started, divesting some of his shares, his son Stafford Smythe got some, but this guy Harold Ballard ended up getting a lot. And Harold Ballard assumed majority ownership in 72, I think. And he was a disaster, like an absolute disaster. If you look at the late 70s, 80s, late 70s, 80s was when the NHL began to change a lot. You had European players starting to come in. Well, some would say, the Leafs had Borje Salming. They got Borje Salming like behind Ballard's back. Harold Ballard was one of the biggest bigots ever. He wanted nothing to do with Russians. He wouldn't allow like foreign bands to come in and play. He really wanted nothing to do with any sort of foreign player. By the time Salming had got there, it got to be huge, and of course he's in the Hall of Fame now. That was it. I realized that the Hockey Hall of Fame, as an institution, not as a building or an attraction, but as an institution, was a joke when I found out that Harold Ballard was a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, he did not have, like, you think of the Robert Kraft, Tom Brady relationship. Harold Ballard never had that relationship with anybody. And he had plenty of guys who he could have, right? He ran Darryl Sittler out of town. He ran Lanny McDonald out of town. I have no idea why Borje Salming stayed as long as he did. And Harold Ballard was all about money. Money, 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 money. So for the longest time, it was, when are the Leafs going to win? Well, come and talk to us when Harold Ballard dies. Well, sure enough, Harold Ballard died eventually. Was taken over by Steve Stavro, who was a grocery store magnate, and then he didn't end up with enough money to keep the ship going, and after that it became really a corporate team because they were bought, and this personally was a little bit of a challenge for me professionally. He was bought by the Ontario Teachers Pension Board, so literally the Toronto Maple Leafs were owned by a consortium of money. And by that time, the opposite of the Patriot way had happened. They didn't have a culture of winning. They had a really well-developed, ingrained culture of losing. And to get out of that culture is really, really, really difficult. Now, Dan, when you said like the Leafs are like the Cubs of hockey, right?
No, Mark said that. I wouldn't make that. I would not dare.
Okay.
I hate Chicago Cubs so much. I would not dare ever make that distinction and compare the two because I don't hate Toronto that much.
Okay. But anyway, like there were blips. 93, they were in the conference final, and they probably should have gone to the Stanley Cup final. And it's hugely controversial here because that year the high sticking rule was very, very specific, right? So if you hit someone in the head with a stick and drew blood, that was a game and a suspension, right? So you were gone from the game and you were gone for the next game. So in I think it was game 6 against the Kings, Doug Gilmour took one of those sticks, drew blood. It just so happened that the dude with the stick, his name was Wayne Gretzky, and there was no penalty. And Gretzky went on to score the game-winning goal, and then, right? So it's like, I mean, for Leaf fans, that's as close to the curse of the Billy Goat as you can get, right? Or the curse of the Bambino. But getting out of that losing culture has been so hard. I'm not one to blame the media because I don't think you can blame the media, but the media in Toronto is a factor. It's absolutely a factor.
I've heard you're not the first one that said that at all.
You have essentially, like Toronto is essentially a 4-newspaper town. 4. The Toronto Sun, the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, which is the national paper, and the National Post. They all headquarter in Toronto. And unfortunately, for the rest of Canada, Toronto has the highest population. They get the most coverage. There is a distinct dislike of Toronto. For years and years, I just finished this book, The Battle of Alberta. And one of the things they talked about was how people in Ontario didn't see the Battle of Alberta because there was one game on, and it was on one game on the CBC on Saturday nights, and it was the Leafs and whoever happened to be playing the Leafs. And we didn't get Calgary and Edmonton. We didn't see, Gretzky and Lenny McDonald go at it, and we didn't see, Lee Fogelin and Stu Grimson like punching the snot out of each other, and it became so Leaf centric that it developed a lot of hatred throughout the rest of Canada. Now, where does that leave us now? Well, cycle. They got really bad again, of course. They drafted Austin Matthews first overall, which, I still think it's a wait and see. I mean, is he like Sidney Crosby yet? Well, obviously not. Could he be? Well, maybe.
There's very few people that are going to be.
Yeah, and definitely not at the rate that Crosby was Crosby, right? Because Crosby was he was the best player in the league in 2 years, maybe 3 years. Could Austin Matthews get there? Maybe. I think people around here still think he's got a lot to learn.
What about Babcock? Babcock wasn't the issue, was he?
Babcock was viewed as a savior. He was they brought in, here's the timeline. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment were sold by the Teachers Pension Board. They were purchased by an even crazier consortium. A third is owned by Rogers Communications. A third is owned by their biggest direct competitor, Bell Communications. So, I mean, that's like ESPN and Fox Sports owning the same team.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last third is, and deciding vote is held by a guy by the name of Larry Tannenbaum. So like the board meetings in this place are ridiculous. Now, imagine, you know, when you're fighting about who's covering what games, you know, what games get to go on what channel, you know, does TSN get which games and does Sportsnet get which other games, right? Like it's not just a matter of who's paying the most money. Like the people sitting in that boardroom are like, wait a second, that's mine. And the other people are also saying, well, that's mine. And I want it on my station and I want it on my station.
Jesus.
Add to that Rogers pulled a huge power play and basically shut Bell out of hockey coverage totally, right? They bought the rights to
the Canadian Comcast.
Yeah, the national Rogers has the rights to all the national broadcasts. So not even the CBC anymore. Rogers threw them a bone, and their coverage is still on the CBC.
Oh, thank you, Rogers.
Right? And you know, the CBC is a public broadcaster, so it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be spending billions and billions of dollars on hockey coverage when half of their budget is funded by taxpayers. So like the corporate structure is quite confusing. You know, what else, like Babcock was viewed, he came in right after they hired Brendan Shanahan. Tim Lewicki was this big, huge executive that came in to be the CEO of MLSE, and he did a few things. He hired this guy Tim Bezpachenko to run Toronto FC, who was huge. They brought in Masai Ujiri to run the Raptors, huge, really huge, totally paid off. And then they brought in Brendan Shanahan to run the Leafs. So Shanahan then hires Lou Lamoriello, but everybody knew that Mike Babcock was going to be the coach. And he was the senior guy in the league at that point. He had been with the Red Wings for so long. Whether or not you think he was the best coach or not, whatever. But it was really viewed as, you know, the Leafs have all this money. Obviously, there's a salary cap, so now they're spending it, right? So was Babcock the problem? No, I think he was just like everybody else. You know, he didn't win fast enough, and then the papers got involved, and it was all about, well, I think it's time to go into a new direction, and blah, 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 and, you know, story after story after story after story after story. And then Shanahan had a bit of a problem with his general managers. So he had Lou Lamoriello, but then he had the current guy as the assistant, Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas is like the wonder kid, right? He was running a junior hockey team. He was running the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in his 20s, right? He's viewed as this prodigy. And then they also had Mark Hunter. Mark Hunter was running the London Knights, and you know, the London Knights are probably the most successful Canadian Hockey League franchise going. Right?
Oh, those Hunters. No,
yeah.
Kidding.
You know, Dale Hunter took his shot at coaching the Capitals.
What is it, Kelly? You said as soon as he could get out, he got out.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you bring a coach in who's like, you know what the problem is? Ovechkin. It's not going to go well.
Well, you know, he was never going to last, because when you coach junior for so long, and we've seen it before, like Patrick Roy, same sort of deal, right? You tell these 18-year-old kids what to do, and they do it, or they sit, right? It's like some of these big-time college coaches. Well, then you go to the pros, and you got everybody, you know, with agents and making 3 times the money that you are as a coach or whatever, and forget that. But, you know, that's how does Alexander Ovechkin fit into Dale Hunter's view of how hockey should be played? Absolutely not. Right?
Nope.
Like,
ruin that string of 50-goal years.
Yeah, Dale Hunter's view of how hockey should be played is how Dale Hunter played hockey. Really?
I have no comment.
Yeah, I witnessed that. So
You
So
witnessed both too.
yeah. But
we'll
anyway,
take Ovechkin any day.
but the so the Leafs had this sort of three-headed monster, and the other teams started calling, right? They started calling for, they wanted to interview Kyle Dubas, and you know, as a professional organization, you can only stop that for so long.
Yeah.
If it's not a lateral move, you can't stop him from making a move up. So they had to make a decision, which is that they retired Lou Lamoriello to the Islanders or whatever, and then Mark Hunter went back. And then it was at that point that, you know, the Wonder Kid really took over. Is he done? No.
Okay,
Like
that was my next question. That's
his
good.
roster now is not done. It can't be done, right? It's this Leafs team is a unique team amongst Leafs. So I mean, to me, here are some of the most significant Maple Leafs in the last like 3 decades: Mike Palmateer, Grant Fuhr, Felix Potvin, Curtis Joseph, Ed Belfour. What do those guys all have in common?
I think they're goalies.
They are all goalies.
That was sarcasm, guys.
But they are all goalies who carried the Leafs, right? Facing 40, 50 shots a game, right? That Leaf defense is the dude between the pipes.
I was going to say
Right?
Swiss cheese.
Oh my gosh.
So a goalie's next, huh? Kelly, your comments after Dave's analysis of the Maple Leafs over what you've witnessed, and then of course Paul.
I don't know. I think anytime you get a corporation involved in owning a team, it's not gonna work out. Yeah, we know Ballard is a horrible person on so many levels. And was bad at running the team. So like just a terrible person, and was also bad at anything related to a hockey team. And of course, when you're running a hockey team, you have to be good. You have to be at least somewhat a people person. And from everything that I've read and heard discussed, that was not the case at all. So that just wasn't going to work out. But yeah, once you have a corporation running a team, it never seems to turn out good, because a corporation does not care about championships, despite whatever press releases they will release when they make all their changes and hire and fire everybody. They don't care. All they care about is the bottom line. So I don't see that working out. When you were talking about Dubas, it's funny, the parallels with what happened in Washington were jumped out at me, because that was the case after Trotz won the Cup in Washington. Teams had been contacting the Caps for Reardon, who was the assistant coach, for a while, and they got to the point where they couldn't stop them, so they had to make the choice, and Trotz kind of gave them an out when the contract after the Cup win and all that kind of stuff, they kind of had their out, and they let him go. And it's just funny that him and Lamoriello joined up in New York as the old cranky guys now, playing their form of, oh my God, the most unbelievably boring hockey. It's, yeah, you have the mastermind of those Devils teams, which ruined hockey, and then you've got Barry Trotz with like maybe 1.5 talented offensive players. Man, this series is gonna just be terrible. It's gonna be so boring. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't know. Toronto's a mess.
Paul, the Maple Leafs.
I got some breaking news. The NHL has postponed the Boston-Carolina game until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you for your Toronto Maple Leafs take. No, just
So have you called in sick to
Yeah,
work?
I've got to call in sick for work now tomorrow.
Just
No,
tell them I have. I'm
got
sorry,
that-
Kate,
I'm
I
gonna-
have coronavirus. I'll see you in 2
Room
weeks.
flu?
I'm gonna sit in my office and watch the damn game. um, I don't know. You guys have been having a serious discussion. I've been on Twitter looking at some hilarious takes. The Columbus Blue Jackets of all teams just said this game is like a CVS receipt.
Tortorella loves this. This is what he thinks hockey should be.
And Vegas just said we want to thank the Calgary Flames and the Dallas Stars for respecting our start time.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Toronto, geez, yeah, it's been a mess. Everybody's known it's been a mess since way back in the day, and I guess, yeah, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. Sound like Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra. Yeah, but running a team by committee never works, and that's why you end up with a team with one line that has a higher salary cap hit than like all the entire forwards of the team that just eliminated them.
Well, like currently, the salary cap situation has not, and the timing of contracts has not really helped them out. They probably dropped the ball signing William Nylander to the price tag that they did. And it was, one of these deals, this never works, is the dude holds out and then you sign him more than what you really wanted to sign him. And then he comes back, but he's missed the preseason. He's missed the first few weeks of the season, and then it takes him a while to fire it up. But then he's feeling the pressure, right? Like, well, wait a second. You've only scored 3 goals in the last 3 weeks. We're paying you all this money. But it's still preseason for the guy. That plus they had Mitch Marner coming up next, who I don't know if anybody believed in Mitch Marner as much as Mark Hunter did. And Mark Hunter is gone because Marner was a London guy also. But he's small. And he's one of these guys that came out of nowhere. Well, not nowhere, but he's vastly exceeded expectations to put him in a position where he's at now. But I think probably the best question, though, is, can Austin Matthews lead a team? And he hasn't shown that he can. And I think now people are also questioning, can John Tavares lead a team? How much of Tavares's, playoff experience have we just chalked up to the Islanders being the Islanders versus, well, wait a second, this guy was the face of the Islanders, and the Leafs didn't have to work to get him.
No,
he came to them, right? Go look at the pictures of him when he was like 6 in his bedroom, in his Maple Leafs sheet set and comforter underneath his Maple Leafs wallpaper. Like, this was preordained that this was going to happen in free agency. People in Toronto aren't convinced that Austin Matthews is a long-term solution. People are waiting for him to take his free agency eventually and go home and go be an Arizona Coyote.
Wow. Really?
Well, you threw out the comparison when you were talking about Crosby. And here's the difference. Pittsburgh got 2 generational talents. Not disputed. And Austin Matthews, I don't know about generational, but he's really, really, really good. Pittsburgh, however, built a team around their generational talents. Lemieux was scoring tons of points, and Austin Matthews is too. But Pittsburgh put a team around him, and they became that playoff juggernaut that won 2 straight cups. And they did the same thing for Crosby. Crosby came in the league. He lost Rookie of the Year But they built that team up, and they found those other players. They found a lot of great young players because they had lots of early draft picks, and they built the team that Crosby needed. Now, yes, he definitely has that X factor. He's just seems to be a born hockey leader. He's that guy that everyone's like, yep, we're just going to fall right in line behind him, and we will follow where he goes. And usually, it's pretty good results. Austin Matthews definitely doesn't have that in Toronto. I think Dubas is trying to address that. I mean, they have no defense, nothing.
They're very,
They
very
have
young. I went through the roster today, and I was like, wow. Jake Muzzin is the only dude who's 30.
Yeah, and they traded away 3 or 4 young prospects to get him, to get that experience. But so they haven't even come close to building a team that can win in the current environment around him. They've got the offense for the most part. They've got the offense. To your other question, no one thinks that Matthews is ready to be the leader because he didn't get the C. Now we know what that was about. He was going to get the C, but then that whole incident that no one talks about, and somehow he's nominated for the Lady Byng, whatever. But you can't. It's like the thing everywhere. Can you build a team around Stamkos? Can you build a team around Ovechkin? Can Ovechkin lead them to the promised land? No, Ovechkin can't. He has to have a team. He has to have secondary scoring and a defense that's competent and a goaltender who doesn't fall apart when the Penguins are on the other side of the ice. All these things gonna have to fall into place. But it's never one guy. And if you hear Crosby talk, he never talks about I did this, I did that. It's always about the team, and that's what it takes in hockey. I think above all other sports, you have to have the complete package. And what the complete package is a weird mathematical equation and magic elf things. You never know what it is, because if someone knew what it was, every team that possibly could would build it. They would just use all the parts that you're supposed to and put it together for the right amount of time, and then each team would get their chance to win a championship. But it's not like that.
Well, in this past series against the Blue Jackets, I think, and in your comparison to Pittsburgh is interesting, because when Crosby came in, within three years, they were 3 very strong centers deep, right? To the point where Jordan Staal had to go and find somewhere to play. I think the Leafs against Columbus were in trouble as soon as they put a line together that was Tavares, Matthews, and Mitch Marner. Because once you got past that first line, there was nobody else to make that second line click. And then even the Leafs in the 90s were the 93 team. They were 2 strong. They were 2 strong lines. One line led by Gilmore, the second line led by Sundin, and then the third line was like the super checker line. But this Leafs team, they don't have that identity. The lines aren't etched in stone. And that those great teams have to have at least 2 solid scoring lines, unless they're the Devils, 2 solid scoring lines, and then go from there. Leaf fans are not used to having a goal. Well, I guess they are now, but a goaltender who is not standing on his head, who lets in a soft one here or there. I mean, that doesn't play in Toronto, right?
I know. I love Cujo. He was one of my favorite players. Cujo let in plenty of soft goals. However, he would balance that out with he would throw in a regular season game where he would have 55 saves, and he was the only reason that the Leafs were in the game. So I think nostalgia plays a little part in that. Belfour, I'd say, would be maybe more the very consistent, never had a bad game kind of goalie.
By
Well,
the way, officially, this Tampa Bay Columbus game is longer than the Flyers Pittsburgh game, and has also lasted longer than Adam Oates' Flyers career.
Adam Oates had a Flyers career.
Exactly. Would like to thank Justin. Would like to thank Jay Sesquilla for Broad Street Hockey for that one. Yes, he did. It was that long.
The Toronto scoreboard guy is at it again.
I saw it.
Or girl. I don't want to assume.
We apologize if you had other plans tonight.
Yeah. And Bucci-Gross just tweeted out, I think we're going to have a vaccine before we see another goal in this game.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
somebody
Tonight?
somebody just tweeted, very bold of the NHL to assume that this game will be over by 11 a.m. tomorrow.
I'm just glad we don't have to keep talking about that Flyers-Penguins game, because it's one of those things that I put in my list of chapping my ass, where we talk about, hey, remember when we won this game? Like, yeah, when was our last cup? Sorry, I'm bitter. Dave, close it out about the Maple Leafs, sir.
Well, here's a thought. The Red Wings went through this. Like, a lot of teams have to learn to win. You know, you go through the playoffs a little bit. You take your lumps before you can ascend to the next level. You know, are the Leafs in that category? I don't know. The Leafs were totally bit by the Boston bug for the last few years. So
Yellow and black, man. I'm telling you.
I would think that this one hurts a little bit more, just because it's not Boston, and there was a lot of assumptions that they could have won this one.
Interesting.
But you know, next year is going to be a really important year for this team. I'm not sure how much movement is going to happen in the off season overall, with all of the craziness and scheduling weirdness. So do I see the Leafs changing a lot of the pieces? I don't. But is there some maturity that's going to happen? Is there some growth that's going to happen? Can they come up with some solid lines that aren't flip-flopped and here, there, and everywhere? And I don't know. It's wait and see.
Well, we might be having you on this time next year to have a different conversation. We don't know. We'll find out. Or whenever, not this time next year, maybe earlier. I don't know.
Oh,
To
I hope
wrap
they're
up
not
the
playing
Blue
next-
Jackets game this time next year?
Yeah, I guess. It was a very good episode this week. I appreciate Dave Cotney for coming on to talk to the Leafs. I just
Go
didn't want to do it
Avalanche!
alone and not have somebody who could actually speak for the Leafs without me just going, you know, they suck. No.
And did you guys see the ping pong ball the other day? The draft lottery? The Maple Leafs ball actually, you know how they all went into this jug and then there was a vacuum tube in the top? The Leafs ping pong ball actually hit both posts.
Oh, wow.
It dropped down, and then the Rangers ball went up the middle.
If that isn't a goddamn metaphor for the frickin' Maple Leafs,
But
it's like, you know, and as a Flyers fan, I put this into perspective like this, Dave. It's like, I always say, well, it's been so long. And then I'm like, well, I mean, there is the Maple Leafs. So it's like, if they win first, how upset can I be? I don't know. The whole playoffs the dice went whoop, random.
I was going to say, probably the best allegory metaphor for the Maple Leafs is actually Chicago. Chicago hadn't won since the 40s or 50s?
Yeah.
And they were totally a victim of a horrible owner who would penny pinch and wouldn't spend a dime. And they were an absolute mess. I think they had a little bit more playoff success. They never won the big one, obviously, but they were a consistent playoff team despite the penny pinching and stuff. And once that guy died, they really figured it out pretty quickly. But also they loaded up with all these really, really high picks and built a great team that, you know, three cups in 5 years is pretty darn good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they went from 60 to 2010, the Blackhawks did. So, 50 years.
Yeah, I remember 2010. Thanks, Paul.
And they were able to
2013.
they were able to decide who were the right people to keep and who were the right people to let go, right? Like, not everybody was around for all of those years, and they had to pick and choose which young guy gets to stay and which young guy's got to go.
Yeah, they did have, like I said, they did have a single owner. It wasn't a corporation. It was the son of Dollar Bill. So they had. You have one guy calling the shots. Anyone who's worked in the real world knows it's better to have one boss than several bosses.
And for wrestling fans that are listening, compare it to WCW in its entirety. There, that explains it. One boss versus 50. With that being said, Dave, people follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Profan9, and of course, I'll be here next week for the Stadium Journey podcast.
Hell yeah! And we have to get scheduling a lacrosse one so I can bring Kelly on because I got to hear this.
Well, maybe not if we
get somebody from the Cannons on. We're not having Kelly on.
Yeah, no.
No, actually, I want to have her on the same show. Like, have two segments. Here's the guy for the Cannons. Kelly, welcome. Let's discuss.
And now here's the counterpoint.
Paul, where can people follow you?
I'm at Puckman RI.
Kelly, do you want people following you, or should I just send them the Obey Puck show?
Yeah, you can do that. I had a Twitter handle, but I haven't been on Twitter in months, and I don't think I'll be going back.
I'm going to give you access to the hockey one, then. The Obey
So
the Puck
that's
one.
why you haven't answered my messages.
Yeah, you got to message her on Facebook, dude.
If you did that, I'm sorry, Paul.
No, I'm kidding.
Nothing personal. Unless you were
he's
talking
like-
about lacrosse.
She looked at me one day and she said, Paul is messaging me. I'm never coming back on here again.
Wouldn't be the first woman to say that.
Yeah, but if she ain't saying it to me, buddy, she ain't going to say it to you. Let me just say that. Follow me on Twitter at DanLaw83. Obey the Puck is kind of there at Obey Puck Show, but you got to go to VOCNation.com to listen to the podcast. Or if you're on your smartphone, type in VOC Nation Radio Network. Or if you want to watch this live, you're already there, twitch.tv/DanLaw83. Or watch it later, youtube.com/DanLaw83. For Dave Cotney, Paul Baker, and Kelly Levy, I am the above-average comedian, Dan Calchico. We will see you we'll see you in 2 weeks because we got playoff hockey. I'm sure we'll find something.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? Have a good one, everybody.